But right now, let's meet our players a little better and get their perspectives on what's coming up in this match.
Plantão é brabo, se a gente deixar o menino solto ali, o cachorrão vem quente.
O GDN, pelas finalizações de round, pela versatilidade dele como suporte, vai trazer bastante dificuldade pra gente. Eu acredito que com todos os resultados melhores que eles vêm mostrando durante essa temporada, vão fazer com que esse jogo seja um jogo muito mais disputado do que foi o do primeiro turno, com o Mavi e o GDN trazendo o que eles vêm trazendo para o time, com certeza vão dar muito mais resultados.
A FURIA é um time que vem crescendo muito ultimamente, né? Nos últimos tempos eles têm sido um destaque aí, e eu acho que com certeza vai ser um jogo difícil, mas a gente tem tudo para ganhar deles.
Where this match is going to be played, of course, the map veto coming your way thick and fast here. Ollie, let's talk about what is to be expected as these players ban out different maps. We can remind ourselves, of course, FURIA playing yesterday on Consulate and W7M. It looked like they were on Clubhouse there against FaZe. Ollie, what are your expectations now as we start to get across these map bans?
And W7M have probably played the widest array of maps here. They haven't really got more than 3 plays on any one map, and that is onto Oregon. So there's a chance here that we're going to see something a little bit unusual from them. They've got that kind of wide map pool that we've come to know. Obviously, they didn't go to SI, so there isn't as much data on them. FURIA, on the other hand, a little bit of a wider map pool coming out here. I wouldn't be surprised to see something that's going to sort of challenge W7M in the fact that they are a relatively new side. With the addition of Mav and GDN there, you want to try and maybe take them to a map that isn't quite as standard. So maybe we'll see something like that sort of come on through with maybe Clubhouse and Oregon bans off the back of FURIA. There we go. We're going to see the Oregon ban from FURIA. W7M going to remove the Clubhouse. Interesting to see Coastline banned away straight away. I think maybe W7M seeing how good FURIA were against Liquid on that map. And with the way that things trickle on down, it's going to be a cafe. It's down to FURIA to make that decision as well with... Sorry, banning out the cafe. If FURIA going to make that decision, it's going to be a Chalet that we end up on. Excuse me. FURIA, they're banning out cafe, so they get to make that choice and that decision. But I think Consulate would have been preferred as well there from FURIA. They didn't look to ban that one out. They played it, of course, yesterday. Regularly, we'll see teams try and play the same map on both games, especially inside of Super Week. FURIA going to be playing 3 maps this weekend. So, yep, Chalet going to be the decider there. I think it probably favors FURIA. We've seen it played a couple of times. They've got a reasonable win rate on there as well, 80% out of 5 plays, so not doing too bad.
Looks like we are ready to get underway here, so we will be off down to Chalet, my friends. Strap your snow boots on because it's time to get underway with our first match at Chalet between FURIA and W7M. Here's Gio and Ollie.
Thank you very much, Riley. Let's get stuck in now to Chalet. First game of Saturday here inside of Super Week. FURIA versus W7M. Familiar territory, Gio. This is where we left the broadcast yesterday.
It is indeed. Not between these two teams, however. I mean, W7M played on Chalet against Santos, I believe, a few weeks ago. And FURIA have showed their diligence on this map as well a number of times. I'm really interested to see how this is going to go. This is the only map that W7M have... I think it's one of 2 maps that they have a 100% win rate on, but because they've only played it once. So statistically, they're amazing at it.
Unbeaten.
Absolutely, like, literally untouched.
It's... It does get a bit difficult with W7M to really predict where they're going to go and what they're going to do based on that sort of fact. So we've kind of got to take that with a bit of a pinch of salt. It was an overtime as well. I'm slowly winding the mental gears and recalling the game. It was an 8-7 toward W7M versus Santos. So one that really could have gone either way. As we head on in now to the bans, we've got Maverick, Thatcher, Valkyrie, and Arcade all removed. Nothing too out of the ordinary there, nothing too targeted. Maybe the Maverick, a bit of a strange one, Gio. We don't always see Maverick banned here on this map.
It's been a little while, but the thing that you have to remember about Maverick bans going against W7M is they're basically target bans against, funnily enough, Mav. You know, W7M, we know that they are a big nade team. This was something that was really exhibited in the first game that they played of this stage because, again, it was just similar bans done against them. So a lot of these teams know that if you can remove those kinds of operators against W7M, you're likely going to put them at a significant disadvantage just because they come into their comfort picks rather than necessarily them being hyper meta on any one map.
Furia to kick things off on the defense here. They're going to take us down to bar. It's going to be, seems like a fairly default defense here, getting set up inside of library. They've got Lender on the Frost, those bear traps, and of course the deployable shield that will most likely be played at the top of library stairs. Bear trap's going to assist keeping control of the windows and just making it so players and attackers can't just hop on in without paying a little bit of attention to what is going on at the feet. But Furia have also really extended quite heavily into kitchen. So they're really looking to challenge and vie for pretty much all the control that they can here.
Now, I'm pretty sure we just saw the FURIA gates actually being placed on the solar windows. I guess we'll have to see. But I'm pretty sure that that's where they've been put. And a lot of teams have been looking... Yeah, there we go, both of them. A lot of teams have been looking to utilize that avenue of ingress into the map for a number of different sites, most notably when attacking onto Master. But I suppose it is still viable attacking onto Bar, especially if you're looking to clear out places like Piano and like Library Stairs. And I mean, look at this very north side defense that's being put up by FURIA. You got someone chilling out in Closet, the soft wall to directly face the windows, and Solar Stairs is occupied too. So they're very much prepared to defend this side of the map, but Rare, who I believe is the player who was in Closet, is going to be the first one to fall.
Followed by Highs as Herds has actually made his way up those Solarium stairs. It's no good having all that utility if it's going to get circumvented like that, so... It now really falls on to Lender. Drones can start to work through. Lender can still challenge if a player does look to hop on in, but he does have Herds to contend with still playing on Solarium Stairs. So a bit of a tricky situation here. A couple of men lost early on the side of Furia. It isn't going to make this roam any easier for them. Lender now going to start to get pushed, but Fantasy, he's come in with a bit of a rotation and has managed to take down Herds. Dips himself back through the bathroom and into Piano. He can get himself safe for a time.
Oh, okay. I thought Fantasy was going to get Panico there, but he managed to return the shots pretty well. Guy to follow up as well. Leaves just Lender on his own. I do stand corrected. It was him who was in Closet, but he's right behind the corner. No. You can see the barrel of his gun as well. That's such a shame. Just off of the screen for him, I assume. And even then, you're left on your own. There's only so much you can do in that situation. But a good first round there from W7M.
People that play non-default aspect ratio, am I right?
I know.
4-3 players, calling you out. Unfortunate there. It's, I mean, it would have been the start of a hell of a clutch, but ultimately Furia just not really able to fully keep themselves safe everywhere that they tried to extend into. They went for a very extended roam game, and they were looking to not only defend Library, but they invested utility in Library, which didn't get pushed. So it was then good that they had investment over towards Solarium, but nobody was able to stay alive, and I think everybody was just reliant on winning those engagements, and there wasn't a lot of trade potential coming on in. Sure, we had a flank from Fantasy, but ultimately, a flank is only ever going to do so much. You need to have players in a position to actively trade off one another. I don't think it's any big surprise here that we see the side change.
No, me neither. It was a valiant effort, and I think it was quite creative coming out from Furia. And that is one thing that I have enjoyed about Chalet, particularly over the course of this stage. When you look back in stage 1, it was really players just trying to situate themselves and figure out what worked and what didn't. In stage 2, it's been a lot more about innovation, in my opinion. We've seen a lot of teams change, particularly how they want to defend sites such as Bar or such as Kitchen, for example, where there was sort of an understood way of how to do it. Now they want to be going for something new. So I enjoy seeing teams do that, and I like that FURIA did go for something new. It simply didn't pay off for them in this instance. Now they're going to be defending onto Master. I'm wondering where it is they're going to be placing most of their attention. W7M looks to be coming up through the basement, as well as looking at the other floors as well. And there are those same FURIA gates that we saw on the solar windows last time. There didn't seem to be too much of a deterrent before. A nice trade coming out from Rare as Herds gets a kill from the basement. And I'm pretty sure that's the only presence that W7M had down there.
Much better there coming out from FURIA. Herds is that aggressive player that you will see go and try and take advantage early on in the round and really insert himself into the site or even into the map. We saw him get into the site a couple of weeks ago against NIP, and it was it ended badly, but it was an attempt. But he's doing the same here, and now he's getting himself in, getting himself involved nice and early. And these two teams are hella aggressive. Fantasy, what a shot! Gonna be able to take down Mav as he hops his way on in. P10 Roni is rarely far from Fantasy, as he really does like to take advantage of that fast fire rate. We're going to see Lender get himself down, but fortunately, Miracle is in position to revive. The aggression that both of these teams have shown, I think we're going to be seeing explosive starts pretty much throughout this game, and it's going to be all about how they can hang in the gun skill. Panico! What a turn and burn onto Miracle. The trade does, however, come through. It's going to keep FURIA at that man advantage. Boy, oh boy, what a shot.
And yeah, he's really on point today. Oh, man, you know what? I really wish that I had a reaction time like that. But regardless,
I think everybody does.
I know it's so impressive to see. These last two players of W7M are trying to situate themselves. You can see GDN's all the way on the other side of the map, while Guy looks to come in through Library, which is entirely uncontested by any of the three remaining defenders. Nice to see a default can be shot, because that was a problem that we did see yesterday. In fact, on Chalet, no less. So, you know, that's always good. Now, interesting here, because I think he's looking out for someone downstairs. You've got to remember, of course, that the site is upstairs, and Guy has just decided to go down. He is playing flank watch still. There's just someone on the other side of this wall to where GDN is right now, and they're very aware that any of these defenders could have come up behind them.
Ooh, it's a good shot from Guy on to Rare as he gets a nice little entry on into the site. It's going to make things a little bit easier here, but there's still a lot of work left to do. Lender and Fantasy going to be able to take down the final two players in what was quite an aggressive round, but FURIA there, I think, showing a little bit of that experience that they've been able to generate over the past 6 months or so in when things do get aggressive and when there is an explosive start. When they get that advantage, they are happy to get themselves back on into the site, and that was a really big difference there from the previous round.
I think the other thing as well is that even though W7M had a pretty good approach, i.e. to come in from other parts of the map, they wanted to go for a clear, FURIA were pretty well positioned to take trade. So every time that there was a good early kill from W7M, it was always responded. None of them were left untraded. And that in and of itself can be something that simply saves a round for you, because if you can nullify the kills that are being done onto your team, you can still come out victorious. It's very difficult, regardless of how good your attacking position or approach or strategy is. It's very difficult to still win that round out if every kill that you make is also being responded.
We did have Herds disconnect just during that last round. He has got himself back on in, so we should be getting back into the game very shortly. We're able to utilize the pause, so we haven't missed any of the action. Currently sat 1 round apiece. FURIA there seeing a little bit of success. They're now going to go downstairs into the kitchen, as that bar and stock site really didn't work out for them in round number 1, and maybe they just need a little bit more time to mull it over before going back there. I doubt that we'll see the basement brought, but I will stand corrected if it does happen.
There have been a couple of teams who've looked to do it, but it is pretty hard to defend, and I doubt FURIA are going to feel pressured enough to go there. I mean, it's not common that you see teams go for a 4-side rotation anyway, so I am also in doubt with you there, Oliver. Kitchen most likely to be the last site that they do visit in terms of all the different ones. And again, it looks like they're going to be leaning into quite a roam. If you have a look, the Vigil, the Mute, the Mozzie, it all suggests that same kind of idea. And once again, this is one of those sites where really as an attacker, you want to be coming in from above. Now, a lot of teams actually recently, we've noticed, also look to come in from below as well. And you can approach the kitchen site almost in a sandwich-like manner. So the point is those players from FURIA, they're going to be out and about looking to catch out these attackers as they come in from different points in the map, rather than just directly defending the site itself.
The past couple of rounds, we've seen a lot of pressure on this opening engagement. Usually, it's going to be Herds getting himself involved in that. Currently, he's going to be droning out Snowmobile and looking to get himself in. Now look to work vertically, as there's a lot of angles that you can start to open up. Pretty much the entire of the garage ceiling is soft, so with the skeleton key, he's going to have a lot of free access there. Can actually open up all the way through. We'll get a little bit challenged here by Miracle. As we all know, these holes work both ways, and Miracle now has a bit of an opportunity. He can get glimpses and deal a little bit of chip damage. Fancy they're going to go, Rare going to go for the challenge, but he instead gets himself taken on down. Kind of curious to see FURIA sort of resort back to that one-at-a-time mentality when we've seen them do really good trading in the previous.
Yeah, it can be a bit of a risk, and it's certainly one that FURIA have fallen to in a number of games in the past. Well, I guess we'll see if it continues. Herd still has a bit of HP, about 25, so he can sit on the window nicely for now, while most of these defenders are still just off-site and around. Gives W7M the chance to drone in. They need to figure out where those defenders are to deal with, and Highs in the closet knows that there is at least one coming for him, most likely two.
Fortunately, he has got a couple of rotations set up that he can try and take advantage of here. Could just keep himself alive for a little bit. He's got a bit of info as well. Kind of surprised to not see him have the shotgun out at that sort of close range, honestly. But Herds is going to aggress on in and actually get himself down. Fancy there, finding the vertical kill. Those angles that have been opened by both sides, providing enough line of sight. Mav will come in with a trade over onto Lender. He's still going to be outside on the Iana. A couple of nades in hand. But with only 30 seconds left, W7M, they need to get themselves established inside of this map and start to challenge onto the kitchen. They haven't sufficiently taken that top floor. They won't have been able to make sufficient vertical holes, and now it's going to come down to Miracle and these Toxic Babe canisters. He's going to be able to do a lot to try and deny this push. Panico, he's got an angle on in and some pings to work with. The nades start to fly as well, but the kills so far are all coming up. FURIA, Panico, you've got to land your shots there inside of that one. Fancy, he's going to be there to take him down and instantly get traded. Miracle now in the clutch. 1 versus 2. He finds Mav. The plant still going down as the timer hits 0. He's got plenty of time. Draws for the shotgun to guarantee it. Miracle. 1 versus 2 clutch and a disable.
I just want to say, you know, the compliment that I gave Panico earlier about having great reaction time, entirely rescinded in this round. I mean, obviously, Miracle, it's funny how I spoke so much about FURIA's roam that they were going for, and it was Miracle who was playing, you know, the sort of anchor spot. He was still back on the site. And ultimately, it was him who won the round for everyone. One thing that I will say, though, is that you can see how this style of playing, both defending and attacking for this site, wastes so much time. If you think about the, I want to say in inverted commas, older style, because it's obviously not that Chalet's been in the map pool for a horrendously long period of time. But if you think about the old style of playing kitchen that really involved taking control of office, I suppose, you want to be out on the balcony, open up the office wall, make some vertical holes from there, and then open up the dining wall as well. And so much of the focus is in that side. And a lot of teams would actually not choose to focus too heavily on the north side of the map, and you would very rarely see anyone go down into the basement. But this style that a lot of teams have been going for instead, that involves you know, scouting out those different areas of the map and not necessarily just focusing on those 2 key walls, it uses so much more time. And I would say that it's a really good example or explanation as to why many attacking teams are struggling much more with it, because they have so much more that they have to get done in the same amount of time.
I think that statement's very true, especially when you look at a team like Liquid that are laser focused on getting the walls open and holding flanks for rotation kills. And they don't really worry about anything that is sort of tertiary to that. You know, it's literally, we need to get the wall open into office upstairs so that we can then start to push on through. And that's just what they do. Then they work vertically, and that's how the attack sort of manifests itself, where with W7M's previous attack, they were very spread out. They were seriously chasing these roamers and looking to create these fancy lines of sight from garage upstairs, which they're never the preferable angles to really be challenging onto. So we'll have to see how they approach this one. This is a side that they were, of course, successful on previously. Gone over toward the bar this time. FURIA did extend themselves quite significantly, and this time they've not invested as heavily. The Surrey gates haven't been placed on these Solarium windows. There's nobody challenging on the Solarium stairs. FURIA have brought themselves back a couple of steps, and it's going to give a bit more map control away to W7M in the immediacy, but ultimately they should be a bit stronger and they should have more utility a little bit deeper through.
This is, I mean, quite early. Trying to take those shots. Panico to get the first one onto Rare. I say quite early. We're already over halfway through the round. It is crazy. You do sometimes forget just how much of the early round has to be spent droning and whatnot. So when you first start seeing people take those engagements, it can feel pretty quick. Ooh, someone just behind that window.
It's almost like a jump scare, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like,
Fantasy is very laser focused now.
I think the FURIA are doing a great job of wasting time here. There really isn't a lot that W7M are doing, and they've quickly got themselves to 40 seconds remaining. You haven't got that control upstairs inside a library, although it is starting to come through now, but there's only so much that you're going to be able to open and do. Soft walls can be opened into bar stock. It's a shame that that wasn't reinforced, but still, it's a powerful position for Fantasy to try and hold and play. And Panico could be looking for a hop on through. It's actually going to be Panico to find himself a second kill inside of this round. Lender just dipping himself down. Look at that area denial inside of that bar stock. Not reinforcing that wall has really cost FURIA there, because now the smoke is no longer in position, and, well, everyone's going to get taken on out. Panico, 3 kills on the round, 2 of which came from Games Room window.
I mean, one of the other really big differences that W7M went for in that attack was it wasn't so solar focused. They weren't looking to make a hole clear throughout the entire top of the map. They actually went for the area that they kind of didn't focus on all that much in round number 1, and that was library. And as you mentioned already, the way that they set up the site itself meant that once they had that library control, it was actually very easy to punish what was going on down below. There weren't very many safe angles that could be held, so even when Fantasy dropped down from library through the hatch and tried to take a kill onto the window, he could be brought down from above. He was going to stand in that crossfire regardless of whether he took down one of the W7M players with him, which he actually failed to do so whatsoever. And then you, of course, have the whole thing with the soft wall not being reinforced, the Capitão being able to flush out that area, prevent control. You know, that stock area, the backstore behind the bar, is a really powerful area to have control of. If you can, from afar, stop FURIA, from using it, great, you have all the room that you need and you can actually flood the site yourself. So W7M really read into that. They decided to totally relinquish the thorough clear that they went for back in round number 1 and just take the parts of the map that were needed.
No surprise again here to see W7M shifting things up. Sorry, FURIA shifting things up. They've struggled twice downstairs inside of that bar objective. So Makes a lot of sense for them to get themselves into Master and Office. Let's see what the approach is like this time from W7M. We had a very aggressive start this round previously when we saw it inside of round 2. Offsite hold is going to be in place, but it isn't assisted with a great deal of utility. We're probably going to see Herds make a mess of the ceiling again. W7M really like opening up this angle all the way through. It does give something quite nice to hold on it. Actually gets itself... So the hole is actually just outside of the threshold upstairs into the bathroom. So it's a nice line of sight to hold. You can cut defenders off from rotating or at least make them think twice.
Two and two. Again, they've got those same FURIA gates up. Which I don't hate, actually, because of late, you know, you've seen so much focus of having someone positioned on the solar stairs, but it's like that extra layer of reinforcement to prevent people from swinging through the windows, which is oftentimes the goal here. Big window control attempted to be held by Guy, but Rare throws the C4 straight out, and you could tell that he knew it was coming as well. That's why he was moving down. That hasn't stopped these other two players of W7M from moving into solar themselves, but Miracle right there too with the SMG-11. Beautiful shots from him. Just 2 players left on W7M.
Information there on Rare, but it wasn't going to be good enough. Rare's been hitting his shots this last round or so. He's had a bit of a ropey start, but he's picked it up here in round number 5. Mav now left as the last man standing. He's got a minute to try and work something out here, but he is 1 versus 4. FURIA are circling him like sharks. He's going to be Rare to find that final kill. Peeking out there, and thank you very much. See you later. Round to FURIA. They take the lead again here. 3 rounds to 2.
Yeah, that was, I mean, I get the idea that W7M were going for. There's really nothing wrong with trying to take control of those windows, but they just didn't get anything done from them. Guy trying to take the big window, being shut down immediately. You can't hold any kind of crossfire. There was not sufficient pressure being put onto Closet. The fact that Herds actually was feeling ballsy enough to walk up to the soft wall of Closet, knowing that they hadn't cleared anything out from that, and not worrying about whether someone was behind it, that was very peculiar for me. And that's one of those examples where it would have been so good to have something like a nade, which W7M simply haven't really been bringing, because, I mean, they had the Maverick band out, they've got the Yana right now, but I don't think they've been bringing one every single round. Or if they have, I haven't been hearing nades.
They haven't been used. We've not seen any nades really used. Mav's been rocking the Yana, but it's... I just had like a really weird thought in that previous, just in the pick phase there where they were selecting operators. We haven't seen a single wall breached.
No, we haven't.
And it seems
I did notice that.
It's gone without mention for too long now. It hit me like a truck. I was like, wait a minute, I know what's wrong with this game. We haven't seen anything open. Like, we've not heard one exothermic charge.
No. And it comes into what I was talking about earlier, right? You know, when attacking onto kitchen, how the old style would be, you go for this wall, you go for this wall, and you know, if you're bringing a thermite, you would assume, yeah, you can open the office wall, you can open the dining wall with that, but that simply hasn't been the way that W7M have been approaching their attacks. They haven't been looking to open anything, really, and instead come in from other angles, which is, okay, I get it, you want to do something else, but to me, I just think, well, you need to bring some nades, because you need some way of clearing out those areas that you're going to be walking into if you haven't opened up extra lines of sight.
Yeah, and the way that W7M are playing, they could benefit greatly from something like a Ying or a Monty being brought, because they are just going for that sort of sight push. Opening blood this time being found by Fantasy as he takes down Guy, so it could do something to secure the flank a little bit. Mav going to make his way up library stairs, relatively uncontested. Herds was pretty much allowed to walk straight into games as well. There was a bit of a dance of defenders down there, but it was nothing, nobody came to blows. So library has been taken, but Maybe we're going to see the wall open this time, Gio.
Oh, well, one can hope. Let's see. I mean, we continue to wait. There was a lot of this attempt at the vertical play. Oh,
We
Ollie!
get to see it. Look. It's called
It's
the
an
heart breach,
exothermic
kids.
charge!
These used to be all the rage. Jokes aside, it's going to give a little bit more access into upstairs. And with the amount of time that's remaining, if Hertz can get in, he should be able to make some vertical holes there. The site being downstairs, obviously, there still needs to be some sort of attention and pressure paid toward that. Maybe, just maybe, we're going to see the second exothermic used here. This could be wild.
Oh my god.
It's happening.
It's here! It's happening, Ollie! Ah, this is insane. And this is just the good old trusty way of doing it. And they still have decent time. So by the time that this is open, you know, they're sending in the Gemini now. They want to get some information. Likely there's going to be Toxic Babe canisters, for example, that are used to hold them back. But they still have those routes in open that they didn't before.
9 players alive still. Wishful C4 going to get thrown up there by Rare. I don't think it's actually detonated yet, so it still could have a little bit of impact, but W7M worried about the flank. Losing Gee early was not going to be ideal, but the flank isn't going to be pressured too badly. Lender going to be able to find one out there as a direct trade. Herds, Soul Survivor upstairs. He had the vertical angles, but he didn't have a great deal else. FURIA perfectly dealt with that very slow push. It's going to give them a good split. They get a 4-2 off this first half here on Chalet.
Now W7M will be moving on to the defense, and this is something that's going to really interest me because when we think back to their game that they played against FaZe Clan yesterday, yeah, it was FaZe, on Clubhouse, one of the comments that I made about them was that they look really solid in what it is they want to achieve in the early round, but it's always towards the mid round or a bit later in the late round that you actually kind of see them collapse a little bit and the holes in their plans come to fruition. So I want to see how much they can hold themselves up in their defenses this time. I actually expect a number of their setups to be pretty good at the beginning. It's just a question of whether or not FURIA can either brute force themselves or just use a war of attrition to actually get through what it is they have up. Now, it's kind of interesting straight away because they've brought a dock, which isn't a particularly common operator to see. You know, if I'm looking at a dock and a Jaeger, I'm immediately thinking of like a CEO defense on Consulate, right? I'm not necessarily thinking of what's happening on Chalet. Now, I'm wondering if they are going to have a similar thing where they position the Jaeger somewhere, whether it's the top of library stairs, whether it's maybe a little bit further off course, and have Doc just a bit further back ready to stim him up. Because, for example, if you do have the Jaeger at the top of the stairs and Doc kind of sits on library stairs, it's a good hiding place to be able to continually stim that player. So we'll see how it is they do decide to use that. On the other side, however, Dockerby, Flores, I mean, these are going to be real irritants, if nothing else. Dockerby, of course, the logic bomb, you can find a ton of information about the whereabouts of your opponents. And the Flores drones not only get information, but can remove utility at a decent rate.
See how FURIA choose to approach this. I'm expecting to still see fairly aggressive opening engagements as both of these two teams are known for that. Herds is going to be playing on the side of the fireplace. Highs could be in a position to gain that info on a drone at the moment. In the meantime, just going to be dipping himself in, maybe throwing Flores drone in. I'm going to get rid of the Banshee for now. Not a lot that Herds can really do about that. It opens Herds up to a bit of an aggressive rush in through the window, but that isn't High's end goal here. There's still a shield at the top of library stairs to try and deal with, and that's most likely going to be where these Flores drones see their next outing.
First logic bomb is going to alert FURIA to the location of a number of these players. Herd's the first one to fall. He was out on the mezzanine. So he actually didn't have a shield with him either. He was pretty exposed. So really it was only a matter of time. Guy's going to stim himself up as he's present here in Library, and that's going to allow him to survive the nades that come sailing in. Still pretty low health, but having someone in there means that it's even longer before FURIA can claim control of it.
Especially if those ADSs regenerate, it could be a little bit of a nightmare here to get rid of Guy, and he's probably got an angle onto the game's window as well that he could look to exploit. Drone's going to come in now to still try and deal with him, but this is a nut that FURIA are struggling to crack at the moment, and Guy's going to find Fantasy out all the way on that window from balcony. Panico looks to push himself down just a little bit onto the half stairs. C4 going to come through from Mav. Not successful, but it gives Rare an indication that they know where he's going to be coming from. Miracle trying to find a bit of success on in the site now, but it looks as though information is lacking here for FURIA. He's going to take highs down as the push in comes from Lender. He picks up a big kill onto the player inside of stock, but it isn't going to be enough. GDM with the shotgun. He's going to be able to get the job done there. 3 seconds per kill here for Miracle. Getting caught up inside of the Banshee. GDM with the swing. The shotgun going to do the business there yet again. W7M successful down in bar.
So while they didn't go for what I speculated about, i.e. having Doc situated with the Jaeger, I actually really liked what they did do, because having Doc in Library and able to heal himself up meant that that really pivotal part of the map that attackers generally look to take control of was so much harder to do. You know, they used their utility in on him, they threw in the nades, then he can just stim himself up. So you don't have those nades available anymore. They've already been used. You can take the risk to jump in and actually try and shoot the Doc out of place. But the point is, it wasted an incredible amount of time and ensured that that space couldn't be taken by the attackers. I thought that that was actually really smart. It was a really nice play. It's almost certainly not the first time that we've seen it, although it's definitely not something that's common. You know, I'm sure there are people who are like, oh, well, this team do it all the time. Well, guess what? This isn't that team. So it worked really well for W7M, and I'm happy to see that, because I love seeing it when teams who are relatively new come in with things that are pre-planned. Do you know what I mean? And I mean, like, Mav and GDN, very experienced players. They're going to have such a huge hand in coming up with these strategies, but it's such a nice showing of the development of the team and the synergy and the strategy and the depth of the team, knowing that only recently this roster didn't exist.
It's kind of akin to when you start a new project, and it could be a project on anything. But you've just got everyone's sort of motivation, and everyone's very optimistic about what's going on. They're bringing fresh ideas to the table, and you get to see things like the Doc being played there inside a library. And that's just something that is nice to see, that sort of adaptation. It's nice to see players challenging the sort of norms of a map and how it ought to be played. Now, Chalet is relatively new, so we're going to continue to see those changes and those adaptations, but it's not the first time that we've seen something like that from W7M. And I think their innovation and their willingness to try things is probably going to be something that takes them pretty far when they start to develop and further that sort of synergy and coordination. Now, over the past 20 or so seconds, we've seen a lot of utility moved here by W7M. They have picked up deployable shields, picked up bulletproof cameras, and they've gone for a little bit of a redeploy. The push here from FURIA coming through in a very typical fashion.
Now we're going to see an exothermic charge come out from FURIA on just their second attacking round. It is unprecedented. You can hear that one on the office wall went off. You can also hear the Flores drone in the distance too, undoubtedly to remove some utility just within office. As you can see, FURIA also looking to pressure Piano at the same time, where both Herds and Guy are sitting, waiting for someone to, well, come for them.
Lender going to find himself down, and I think he got a little bit unfortunate there. A logic bomb going to give a bit of information away as well. Herds is going to be kind of aggressive here. He's trying to find a bit of an angle onto the breach. Miracle has gone for the revive here. But it's time that, whilst FURIA have got, I'm sure they'd rather be spending it elsewhere. Fantasy from beyond the grave. going to take down Guy. That's always one that's going to sting a little bit, especially when Highs is able to take down herds like that. Just slowly dipped himself on into the site. Panico with the aggression. Could find himself a freebie and certainly will. Highs just getting caught out there inside of the drone. GDN taking advantage of the Claymore that had already gone, and well, he's able to hob himself out and take down Miracle. Rare looking to get this plant down. He does have the assistance of Lender. GDN, don't be padding your stats. The plant's going down in the site, and you've still got 2 Toxic Babe canisters left. Upside down Repel being held, but GDN does make the cross. Could honestly try and disable this diffuser, as both the attackers are a little bit of a distance away right now, but just got caught looking and searching. Rare eventually found himself a good angle. Honestly, I think if GDN gets on that straight away, he's got a chance.
Maybe so, but I think a lot of the problems came in way earlier than that, and I think W7M were just over-aggressive. You know, even the way that they were trying to hold on to Piano, a lot of it involved them walking forward to try and take engagements. But as defenders, that shouldn't really be the position that you're in. You should be forcing the attackers to walk forward and try and engage onto you. And we saw it a number of times, you know, Panico walking out onto the balcony from office, GDN jumping out to just complete a kill. I get it that in that particular instance, there wasn't a huge risk for him, but it was unimportant. It was irrelevant, basically. They just didn't need to do it. And I wasn't a huge fan of seeing W7M be a bit too proactive in that defense. Regardless, time does indeed turn, and they will be moving on to their third site, which is going to be Kitchen. This is the site that W7M took 2 different approaches to attacking when it was them on the attacking side. Judging by the way that FURIA attacked onto Master, I would be inclined to believe that they would go for that more traditional side of coming in through office and dining, but we'll have to wait and see. Once again, they're going to be employing the Dokkaebi, which is something they've had for the last couple of rounds on their attack, and it seems to have worked pretty well for them. Highs on Ashe, though. I think this is the first time we've seen them bring out Ashe.
Yeah, possibly.
Yeah.
We rarely even see Fancy play Ashe anymore. He pretty much just mains Zephyr.
Yeah. So it's an interesting one because Ashe is not super popular right now. You can see he's brought the G36C as opposed to the R4C, which you just don't see anyone play anymore. But I mean, extra soft breach utility.
And it's Ashe, you know.
Yeah, it's just one of those things where it's like these days, you know, if you want the G36C, the Yana has nades, she has the Geminis, which give information, and they can also be used to bring down Surya gates, which W7M will have. So I'm partially inclined to say that Yana is a better choice, and I think most teams agree with that at the moment, because Yana is significantly more popular a pick than Ashe.
On the flip side, Ashe is faster and doesn't really have a hitbox, so there's, you know, there's
Oh, she's Zoom. I get it. She's Zoom.
There's pros and cons to both sides here. For all the talk about Ashe, Highs is going to find the opening frag onto Herds. Nice little crossfire there from upstairs inside of the office, just catching W7M out. I think that's how a lot of those kills and a lot of these kills have really come through here for FURIA, is that very often they're in a position to catch W7M on a rotation or just slightly out of position. And it's a trend that has continued into this round here.
Oh, gay.
Ow.
Who's looking directly at him? Great kill from Fantasy, while Highs, meanwhile, is taking a ton of damage. FURIA are going... Ooh, nice C4. FURIA are going for that approach that I suspected they might. Another window kill. Right in front of a window where the attackers just shoot a defender walking in front of it. That's, what, the 3rd time now?
It's certainly not great from the side of W7M if that's how you're going to lose a majority of your of your defenders. You can't really be affording to give those sort of kills up. They're just too free to take. Going to start to see a bit of progress made now in on toward the site. Miracle going to have info. Panico is rotated on in. GDN going to be playing on Solarium stairs with the Toxic Babe canisters, maybe able to get them through the floor, but he's going to have to make a rotation down, which he will. Another kill at the window, question mark? Quite possibly. It's going to be a shotgun engagement eventually. Fancy's going to find the down and finish. Panico finds one, but it's impactless rare. He's able to push in under the cover of his own smoke. There was a Z-ping available for him as well, which means there's almost certainly a call out to go with it. FURIA, match point here on Chalet.
Yeah, I feel like W7M's 100% win rate on Chalet may be about to come to an end. That was a disappointing round for them. Just Windows. Not the best. They're going to be returning back down to Bar, which is the only site that they've been successfully able to defend. And yeah, it looks like something very similar for FURIA is going to be coming out, although they're looking to switch their Flores out for...
Flores.
The world may never know.
No, Twitch?
Okay. Now, the interesting thing as well here is the fact that W7M aren't going for that same strategy that they did before. They won't have a dog situated in library. Why? Because they don't have a dog. Now, the fact that they're bringing a Jaeger and a Wamai suggests to me that they want to really, like, bunker down on what it is that's upstairs, i.e. top library. If you can have, like, say, 3 discs, 2 ADSs, and a shield, sometimes we see teams go for that to just ensure that it's virtually impossible to bring that shield down. Now, especially if FURIA don't have a Flores anymore, they will basically have to use utility that has to be thrown to take down that shield. So if they'd had the Flores, it wouldn't really matter. The ADSs, the discs, don't matter that they don't anymore. Obviously, we don't know if that's exactly where they're going to be using it. I actually think we just saw Guy maybe put his shield up on the mezzanine, which is where they didn't have it before. And he was taken down very early before, or whoever it was he was playing Frost, was taken down very early last time as a direct result. So it could be that they're not even going to reinforce that strongly, the top of library stairs anyway, and instead look to have this utility spread out more. Yeah, there you go. There's the shield. And that's the only shield they have.
It's kind of strange to see this change come through because this is the only site that W7M have picked up rounds, whether it be on the attack or the defense, and the defense here previously was very good, and it really all hinged around that dock. Now they've gone for a different strategy here, which isn't a bad thing, but you've just got to wonder what has forced that change. They're worried about the adaptation on the side of FURIA. I mean, we really haven't seen that in swapping Flores for a Twitch. You'd lose a boatload of utility and you get 2 smokes and some shock drones and an F2, which they're all great, but you would think that the Flores would provide a little bit more value, perhaps. This time, the window kills are going to be going in the other direction. Panico, he's able to challenge and take down Rare. Going to be 2 smokes and the exothermic's gone. Honestly, not that that will matter too much in terms of the hard breach. You're mainly going to be looking toward burning through a lot of that utility. Panico will eventually get swung there by Fantasy. Now the diffuser can be recovered, and FURIA can start to make further steps here.
See, I don't know if Fantasy should have overstepped there, because until that point, Panico, basically, it was very hard for him to go out and recover the diffuser that had been dropped. He needed Fantasy to be killed to do it. So if Fantasy had just played a little bit safer, it probably would have made it significantly harder for FURIA to actually be able to collect the diffuser. At least it would have wasted time. As it stands, that's not such a... It's not such an issue here. Herd's trying to thread the needle. Fantasy once again catches him out. He is the king of the castle up here.
Going to be a rough 40 seconds here for W7M and what they have to try and hold off this push. The vertical control has now all but been gained. Info can be gathered. Lender looking to make a bit of an approach. Miracle coming in with the logic bomb phone call. It's going to make things a bit awkward here. Smoke canisters going to start to get detonated, cutting off those lines of sight. Still FURIA trying to work with the vertical. They need to get themselves in here. They know there's a couple of players inside a bar. Stock Gee going to find some success onto Lender. Lender was desperately clutching at straws there. Highs has found himself down as well. The push into sight now has to come, and it's going to come through the back of Miracle. And the SMG-12, the plant now starting to go down. He has to try and aggress on through, but he doesn't know where he's being held from. Plant is going to be successful. Miracle, can you land the final kill? No, it's going to be Fantasy. Plant and a kill to close things out there for FURIA. Miracle, what an entrance he made there into the site. Regularly the support player, but boy, did he step up in a big way today for his team.
Miracle had the game of his life. I was going to say the exact same thing. This was absolutely a miracle game. It seemed that every single time he got kills, it wasn't just one. It always came in multiples, and he didn't like go out of his way to be playing a different role, for example. You know, he wasn't switching onto a different role. He wasn't overstepping anywhere. He wasn't being over aggressive. He was simply just playing his job really well. And that's really nice to see. Oh no, the BM. But yeah, no, a great game there for FURIA.
FURIA have done very well there. I think we were kind of expecting them to come out here pretty strongly and to take home some points today, but they've really sort of shown W7M and where W7M lack on that map and where they lack on the attack. There was some sort of questionable plays coming out there from them, but FURIA took advantage of that. They can only play the game that they have in front of them, and it was nice today to see a couple of other members on the side really sort of step up and get a bit of recognition. We're going to bring Riley back in here. We can have a bit of a further discussion about that game.
Yes, indeed, good to be back, and good to see FURIA really stamp their authority in that game. Obviously, things were a little closer in the earlier rounds, but FURIA, they kind of found their groove, right? Gio, that's kind of where we ended up by the end of it, you know, on attacks. It looked like they were playing just rock-solid Siege, and ultimately the experience that they have as, you know, as a well-established team here, it looks like they are locked up for the LATAM League finals. Impressive stuff from FURIA towards the end of that map there.
Yeah, I mean, they looked pretty coordinated. They were pretty good at actually driving W7M out of the positions that they had. They also were just quite good at catching them off guard. And I hate to say it because it's not like super strategic and really analytical, but sometimes W7M just walked in front of windows, or they walked in front of a soft wall that they should have really tried to clear out behind. And some of that did come down to a lack of vigilance. Some of it came down to a lack of utility. But FURIA were always, you know, focused and ready to punish any of those moments. And I do remember back in stage 1 when FURIA kind of first, you know, we started first paying attention to them, because prior to that, they were not the best team. And one of the things we noted about the way that they played Chalet is they were always very good at having control over the windows, and that does not seem to have changed whatsoever.
Yeah, look, they were looking pretty consistent and as you say, coordinated. And I think W7M just, I mean, walked in front of windows in both a figurative and a metaphorical, in a literal and a figurative sense. You know, they just weren't playing the tight siege that they needed to test this meaningfully. We've got Twister standing by for an interview here from the winning team. We're going to be able to hear the perspectives of Team FURIA after having won this one. So we'll see if we can bring Twister in here, the FURIA coach, and say g'day and
Hello.
Congratulations, of course, after this win. Thanks so much for joining us here, Twister. Another win on the board. A little bit of a wobbly start, but brought it home in the later rounds there.
Hello to everyone. Yeah, it was a pretty good match for us. We tried some new stuff on the map and tried to innovate on some old stuff that we had. So it was a good game and a good practice for us.
Yeah, I mean, Twister, I just, I feel like in that game, while FURIA were obviously playing really well, and we had some exceptional plays, especially from people like Miracle, who just had the game of his life. It seemed at certain points that W7M just kind of made some strange decisions, like walking in front of windows that you guys were holding on to. You know, do you think that sort of took you guys by surprise and meant that you didn't end up having to show quite as much as you maybe had planned?
In my opinion, it was once again something trying to play a map that they don't know how to play, just to surprise us and try to pick us on not playing that map. But the same as the other days that other teams did that, it's the same reason. When you don't have experience in the map, you are in a dangerous place. Anything can happen, and you have to bet if you will win or if you surprise. But in this case, the teams are not surprising. They just can't play the map. You know, that's why it's a little bit bad for us, because we prepare a whole week for some maps and they try to surprise us, but they can't even play correctly the map. So that's what you saw.
I think that sort of really leads into what I wanted to ask Twister, and that was, were you as surprised as we were to see Chalet pick? I was expecting Consulate. I'll be honest. I think that was a map that you guys were maybe going for based on the bans and the fact that you played it yesterday.
Me too.
Could you just shed a bit of light on that? Is that the case?
Yeah, I believe that for the reason that we played it yesterday, they would have some fresh material to study and to counter us, but they preferred to play some other map that is not in their map pool. So we were surprised for this, but it was a good game as well.
Well, thanks, Twist, for joining us here, mate, and thank you for the perspective. Interesting to hear how things went for you there after that win. Congratulations once again, and thanks for being with us.
Thank you.
Good to be joined by Twister there and get a bit of insight as to what was going through the heads of the FURIA players. Certainly a rather scathing assessment of the opponent there, W7M. I'm going to have to walk away and lick their wounds after that one. I haven't got anything quite like that for some time. Anyway, we are going to take a quick break here by the look of things and get ready for our next match, which will be coming your way very shortly. We've got Liquid versus Team 1 coming your way. Liquid, one of the dominant teams in this division, of course, head up against one of the up-and-coming teams, and Team 1 been very impressive. So you're not going to want to miss it. Stick around, everyone. More Siege coming up after this.